Be honest, have you ever watched a brand story that felt too polished or too forced? If you're tired of creating content that feels more like an ad than a story, then this video is for you. I'll show you how to create a brand narrative that's authentic, engaging, and most importantly, genuine. Now, you may want to stick with me to the end because I'm going to share one interview question that always uncovers a brand's unique story. Plus, for those who want a deeper dive into these storytelling strategies, part 2 exclusive for our FlashFilm Academy members will show you exactly how to piece it all together into a compelling narrative. If you're not a FlashFilm Academy member, what are you doing? We drop gems like this every single week. What's really good? Welcome to FlashFilm Academy. I'm Ty, a former Army combat photographer, and you're tuned in to the only channel dedicated to helping photographers, videographers, and filmmakers master the business of content creation. In today's episode, we're talking about how to shoot a natural documentary style brand story for your client. Now listen, in part 2, we're gonna break down the editing techniques, specific questions you need for every shoot, and more. Plus, you'll get a downloadable step-by-step guide to make your next project even easier. If you're not a FlashFilm Academy member, what you doing? You get the first week free. Go ahead, head over to flashfilmacademy.com and sign up. Now let's get to it. First off, we need to understand the client's purpose. Before you even think about the camera or the shot list, take time to understand the brand's core. Schedule a meeting with your client, either in person or via video chat. Your goal here is to dig into the brand's purpose. Start with open-ended questions that encourage them to reflect on the why of their business. Questions like, what inspired you to start this business? What problem do you want to solve in your industry? How do you want people to feel when they interact with your brand? By understanding the emotional motivation behind the brand, you're setting the stage for a story that not only is about what the brand does, but also about why it exists. This is where your story begins. Number 2, let's find the story arc in the conversation. Once you understand the brand's mission, it's time to translate it into a compelling narrative. Think about the classic story arc: introduction, conflict, resolution. All right, here's how you can break it down for your brand story. Now listen, you know at FlashFilm Academy, we keep it real. I'm giving you the game. If you think I'm giving you a lot on the free side, wait till you see what's on the community side. Anyway, let's get to it. Let's talk about introduction. Focus on how the brand started and its key motivations. What was the original problem or gap in the market that the founders aimed to address? Next, let's talk about conflict. Every business has faced challenges, from scaling up to creating new products. This is the emotional core of your story. What obstacles did the brand face, and how did they overcome them? Last but not least, let's talk about resolution. End with the solution. How the brand continues to make an impact today, the benefits they offer to the customer, and their plans for the future. Now listen, listening is very important because while the client speaks, listen carefully for those story elements. You may even encourage them to share specific examples or situations that illustrate each phase. These stories will make your content feel genuine and relatable. Next up is all about the interview questions. Now that you have the story framework, it's time to prepare the interview. Your questions should dig deeper into each section of the story arc. Now, here's some examples to guide you. Let's talk about introduction questions. What's your brand's origin story? What moment made you realize this is what you wanted to pursue? Here's an example of a conflict question. What were some challenges you faced that you didn't expect, and how did you overcome those hurdles? Next, let's talk about resolution questions. What does success look like for you? Now, if you follow this channel, you heard me say that a lot. Next is, how do you see your brand evolving in the future? Always start with broad questions and then follow them up with more specific ones based off their answer. Now, if you sense a good story or emotion, don't hesitate to ask them to elaborate. Give me detail. It's those candid, off-cut responses that often reveal the true heart of the brand. Now, real quick, let me pause right here because if you find this content valuable, make sure you download our free Capture and Convert kit, only available at FlashFilmAcademy.com. It's a must-have for filmmakers or content creators looking to turn their clients into loyal fans. Let's get to number 4, choosing the right location for filming. Now listen, the location should support and enhance the story you're telling. Instead of choosing a generic office background or the break room, think about where the brand's work truly happens. If they're craftsmen or artists, let's put them in their workshop. Let's put them in a cafe or a kitchen if it's a food-related business. On site with employees if the brand is focused on customer interaction and community work. Make sure the environment reflects the personality of the brand. This will make the visuals more relatable and immersive. Scout these locations in advance. That way you have an understanding of what lighting and sound equipment you need. Up next, let's talk about B-roll and capturing natural moments. In documentary-style storytelling, B-roll is your best friend. You'll want to capture organic moments that show the brand in action. To get these candid shots, follow these tips. Up first, observe, don't stage. Let the subject go about their usual routine, and you simply capture it. That can be anything from a meeting to a product creation. Next, this is a key takeaway that a lot of people miss. Use natural light as much as possible. Avoid heavy lighting setups. Natural light gives more of an authentic feel, especially if you're filming in a workspace or outdoors. One thing we don't want to miss that I see a lot of people miss is capture details. Close-ups of hands at work, subtle facial expressions, or the texture of a product add depth to the story. Think of these shots as cutaways that reinforce key parts of the narrative. Next, we want to make sure we're capturing authentic interviews. Now, the goal here is to make your interviewee forget the camera is there. Here's some tips to make them comfortable. Let's start with small talk. Before starting, engage in casual conversations. This helps to reduce tension. I like to look around the room and see family photos or see what teams they're into and ask them questions about that. Next, I like to get my interviewees sitting. It just makes them more comfortable. We want to choose a relaxed location with a seat they feel comfortable in. Consider having a few warm-up questions to ease them into the main topic. I usually cut my camera on as soon as they sit down, let it run, and never touch it. I'm not starting and stopping between each question because I don't want them to hear the noise. And also, on my cameras, I cut off the red light in the front. That red light makes people uncomfortable. Now, let's think about body language. Maintain open and relaxing body language. If you seem comfortable, they'll feel at ease. Nodding and maintaining eye contact encourage them to elaborate. That's why you see a lot of shots where people are talking off camera to the person and not on camera. People get nervous talking to a camera lens. Keep in mind, the more comfortable they are, the more authentic and natural their answers will be. Now let's talk about something a lot of people just don't do for some reason. They don't use music and audio cues. Audio is as critical as video. I often say it's 51% of video, but subtle music can make a huge difference in tone. But be careful not to overwhelm the narrative. Choose music that matches the emotional arc of the story. In the beginning, use light and inspiring music to set a hopeful tone. During the conflict stage, use slightly darker or more intense music that can highlight the challenges discussed. And last but not least, in the resolution, use upbeat celebratorial music. Give the story a satisfying conclusion. We also want to use ambient sound, like the background noise of the workshop or the chatter in the cafe. These things can also add a layer of authenticity. Next up, we need to think about storytelling through visuals, adding B-roll and narrative. Visual storytelling should align with the spoken narrative. If the interviewee is talking about overcoming a tough challenge, don't show happy B-roll shots. Show the effort and dedication instead. Here's how to synchronize visuals. Match the tone of the footage with the story's emotion. Use a mix of wide shots for context and close-ups for emotions. Make sure you vary your angles to keep visual interest. Show the same scene from different perspectives to add depth. Now in part 2, we're going to explore how to structure the content you've captured. How how to weave B-roll seamlessly into interviews, and what editing techniques can elevate your story to the next level. Listen, you don't want to miss that. And if you're not a member, what are you waiting on? Go over to FlashFilmAcademy.com and sign up. You get your first week free. I really want you to think about this. Every business around you need content. Why aren't they hiring you? When you're ready to answer that question, visit FlashFilm Academy. And as always, be inspired, be creative, but this is your year to be profitable. I'll see you in the next video.
Hi, my name is Marcus Alves. I'm the project manager and owner of Edifying Pursuits Media. I want to share my time before FlashFilm Academy, where I was making 400, 500, maybe 1,000, and now constantly making 5,000, 6,000 a month. I believe that FlashFilm is definitely worth every single penny. It transformed my business.